after.
Well, we're live, so
Oh.
here we go. This is what it's all about.
I play to win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Oh, play to win, I play to win. Yeah, play to win, I play to win.
Evaluation podcast. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on the Twitter machine at John McGlynn75. Joining me is the co-host with the Mo-host, JT, Justin Taylor, JT Orange on the Twitter machine. Along with Lucas Perfetti, Adam Hutchinson jumped in last minute. I'm happy to have him here. We'll talk about these guys, some stuff outside fantasy football, their work life. I got some commissioner questions for them, the settings that we have in our new Boomers and Babies startup league we had that we just did last Sunday at Fox and Hound in Schaumburg, Illinois. We'll blaze through some NFL news and rumors. We'll talk some trades that went down in my Mighty McGlynn Dynasty leagues. If we get to them, and then we'll evaluate my freshly drafted Dynasty team that I think is mid, like the kids say nowadays, I guess, mid. And if it's a rebuild, remodel already from this point, and what do I got to do to get it there? So that's kind of where we're at today. So let's play my song here because it's the best song ever made in the history of songs.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
John McGlynn and the boys. So we'll get this show started here. Let's talk about for the Commissioner Evaluation. I can get to know everybody. So first of all, we'll start out with you, Lucas. Tell me about yourself, where the Twitter machine can find you, what you do in the fantasy football space that makes people want to follow you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so my name's Lucas Perfetti. You can follow me at Lucas Perfetti 46. What about me, right? I'm a salesperson. I grew up in the Chicagoland area, Chicago family, of course, all that good stuff. Love to travel, things like that. In terms of fantasy value, I'm really heavily involved. I actually have a podcast with a co-host of mine, Duke. It's called Barely There Podcast. If you're a Bears fan, if you want to check it out at Barely There Pod, really do in-depth for draft now for the last 3 years. Do a lot of in-depth analysis for draft prospects, and then after where they're going to fit. So I think I provide that value in fantasy at least. I really am into college football a lot. I spend a lot of time with it.
Another Devi guy. There we go. JT. He's talking your language now. There we go. All right. Adam Hutchinson jumped in last minute here. I'm happy to have you. A super awesome surprise. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You've been on the show before. Not quite a regular, but, it's nice to have you on. So tell me about yourself, where everybody can find you at, what you do around here.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm actually from the Chicagoland area as well, but Northwest Indiana side. I moved back recently, which is why I was able to do that Dynasty League that you were so kind to invite me in and that we had a good time with. People can find me on Twitter at @thereal_Adam_H. I write over at 4for4.com exclusively, specifically with injury-related content. So especially during season, a lot of my stuff will start to flourish. The 4for4 website, talking about injury breakdowns, helping players get ready for the waiver wire. And then before the season kicks off, project that I've been consistently working on, Injury Index, that gives you very concise, concrete information about specific injuries broken down by player. So you can get an idea of, if you're unfortunate enough that your favorite player gets hurt mid-season, what can you expect in terms of how long they're going to miss, what's the re-injury risk, and then what's their fantasy production post-injury as well.
Fantastic. Chris Joel Smith chiming in and saying everyone look and sounding good. Well, I may sound good, but these guys look good. So speaking of looking good, JT, what's new, man?
I was just pumped to go to the draft. Live drafts are my absolute favorite. I was pumped to get up there. Glad I could get up to Chicago for the draft. Had a fantastic time. I don't know if my team's the greatest team ever. I like it, but that's only because I got a ton of my favorite players, but I don't know if that's good or bad long term for my team. But I had a great time.
Usually when I leave a draft thinking, yeah, I killed it. My team absolutely sucks. So I don't really like my team this year. So maybe that's a good sign that maybe I'll actually do pretty good here. But I actually last couple of years I like the dynasty aspect because I can build up my team like a sandcastle, kind of keep adding to it and get to the top. I've been in a championship in almost every one of my dynasty leagues, minus one, which one of those ones I traded my team away, and I just trying to outsmart myself, getting for draft picks, and those turned into JJ Sega-Whiteside and Kill Harry and everybody else that's been absolutely terrible the last couple of years. So Denzel Mims, everybody you can name that has just been a draft bust. I traded up to get them. That's just kind of my habit. It's habit for me at this point in time. So I'm just whoever I expect the guys that are on my team to bust out my rookies. That's just kind of how that's going to work. But I spent the weekend with Kevin Coleman. Flew into town from California. He went to the White Sox game. Nate Powell, him, Nick Script, other league mates here. And then Sunday we had a draft all day long. It was absolutely fantastic. Went to my neighbor's house yesterday. Finished off some what I call Irish Gatorade, which is orange Jameson, which is fantastic. It's one of my favorite drinks in the world. They did not have any at the draft, unfortunately, so I had to drink regular Jameson. First world problems, but it is what it is. So I had a blast. I had a good time. So hopefully you guys will. Hopefully you guys had a great time too. We'll get into that. So. Tell me about a day in the life of Lucas. Oh, you already said that, kind of the work stuff. Let's go to how did you? These are the Mighty McGlynn home leagues that we're talking about here. So this one's called the Babies and Boomers. What did you guys think about the league? The bylaws attached to the sleeper message board. Did you think that was when you first saw them? You're like, what the hell is this? Or is it something that's normal in most leagues? Or did I kind of go over the top? Or when you kind of saw it, you're like, holy shit, this guy's an idiot? Or like, what is he doing to us? Or was it like something kind of welcome to see an organized league?
I never thought you were an idiot. Definitely, gave a shout to some of my other commissioners about, hey, maybe they need to put a little bit more work in. But no, realistically, I thought it was nice, right? Just having that accessible, knowing if I have a question, I could probably go to those bylaws and type in a search and find it. So no, I think that's a nice little perk to it. Scoring wise, I'm not necessarily a mathematician, so I guess I was just got to the point where I was breaking it down to who's going to score the most touchdowns for me. But overall, I thought it was a pretty cool structure.
JJ Zachariason just had a podcast it was actually like 4 days before our draft, and he went through the scoring systems. If you do a half-point PPR, a full-point PPR, tight end premium, stuff like that, and if you take them away and add them, it kind of, so pretty much what it came down to is pretty much take best available all the time because the scoring is pretty much lateral anyway. It really doesn't matter, but the difference in ours, we'll get to in a minute. But they had some changes, some different scoring systems. I'm in 8 dynasty leagues that I commish, and all of them have different scoring, so I have to kind of adjust, and it kind of sucks hitting the waiver wire and picking up guys that I forgot it's not tight end premium here, and I dropped this guy to pick this guy up, and it gets a little confusing sometimes. I'm in 19 leagues, so it's a little bit kind of rough to start 19 lineups every Sunday, but it's still my favorite hobby. It's not overwhelming yet. I still do the best I can to do all my stuff. But Adam, what do you think about the rules?
No, man, I thought they were pretty straightforward. I actually commissioned a couple of like home leagues and a dynasty league with a lot of my college buddies. And I think you got to have rules like that. So it lays it out. So there's no gray area in terms of what we'd agreed on, what we didn't agree on. You need something in written form that's there that you can cross-reference. And if someone tries to check you on something, it's actually like, well, actually in the rules here. Recommendation. I mean, it can be daunting sometimes when you look at that. So I've tried to make it easier for people. At the bottom, I put a table of contents of like, these are the specific sections. So like they can just scroll down, because similar to you, like I play with a lot of guys who are like, I'm not going to read all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But if they need to find something quick, they know where to go. But yeah, you got to have that stuff, especially when you're playing for money, like we are, and things like that. You got to have a set of rules for everyone to follow.
Yeah. JT, I think you saw these rules too, and you're a little bit, we talked about this last week with Pat Fitzmaurice. You not overwhelming, but it's welcome surprise to see kind of an organized league bylaws, right?
Yeah, I love it. I'm actually gonna copy a bunch of those we talked about. I'm gonna copy a bunch of those, go over them, and adjust them for some of my leagues. Because we talked about a little bit of problem for me. I've been running leagues for a long time, and I just we kind of had voice things that were the thing, and I just for some reason never really put those in specific places. So sometimes you get those issues where people are like, "Hey, what's the exact rule on that?" And then I'm like, "Oh, it's this," and they're like, "Well, where is that written?" I'm like, well, it's not really anyway. So, but the nice thing is, like I said, the nice thing I like with Sleeper is the ability to put everything in the chat and pin it. So
Yes.
all my leagues that I commish, at least used to be, now most I try to get most on Sleeper, they're all on ESPN. It was a freaking nightmare. So I would be going back and looking through text forever, and I didn't really have like a set Word document. So that's one of the favorite things I like about Sleeper is the easy ability to chat in one channel and pin stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go back on the leagues I've convinced to go to Sleeper. I'm going to go back and do that on my Sleeper leagues. And then I'm going to continue to work on my other leagues to get them to go to Sleeper from ESPN. Hopefully here in the next year or two. Some of the leagues I've been running for 15 years, people just don't like to make a change.
Yeah, you guys didn't mind like every other day having to vote on some kind of scoring and some kind of article and some kind of something else, right? That at least at that point in time what's going in, right? Adam, you didn't mind voting on that kind of stuff, right? It was kind of the norm for every league to vote on everything, right? It's better that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is. You just want to get everyone's input.
Luke, I didn't bother you too much, did I?
Yeah, no, honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm pretty easygoing and okay with what most people are going to vote, right? When it comes to the scoring standards, just knowing to have that structure there before draft is all that's really important, and that was all lined up well before. Yeah, I like having that kind of input actually as a league member.
I know JT has some a lot of stuff going on, and 9:30 in the morning when he's trying to take naps, drops his kid off, kind of stuff like that. I'm like, dude, answer the poll. Let's go, get up. So I bothered him a little bit much, but it is what it is. So JT, no problem for you either, right?
I just need the tag. I just tell people just keep tagging me, and I'll do it. I'll know it. I just got to figure out what I just can't take when I'm in stuff when people don't tag me and they're like, "What are you paying?" I was like, "Oh," they're like, "It sent you an email." I'm like, "Oh man, that's in like 700 emails I got yesterday. Like I'm never gonna see that." I'm like, either tag me on Twitter or like hit me up on a text, and then I'll get back to you pretty quick.
Was this any of your guys' first in-person draft? No. All right. Yeah. Good. All right. There was two people there who never drafted in person before. And I was kind of like, this is a cool experience. And like Anthony came with, he was supposed to be, sticker bitch for us. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. And he just sat there laid on the fucking couch like an asshole. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, I'm not supposed to swear on the show. I forgot. But anyway, so we're like, I'm like, usually these drafts, I got them down like 3.5 hours, less than 4 hours. And it's one of those things where I was kind of, when it went to like 5 or 6 hours, I was kind of like, man, most people have done in-person drafts before. They don't want to spend 6 hours at a bar, but other people, it was their first time experience. So I was like, but whatever. I think it turned out okay. So what was your favorite part about this whole draft day experience besides Chris Joel Smith eating all your nachos, Lucas?
I'm honestly happy he did, right? Because I was wondering what happened. Because I offered to everyone, like, hey, if you want some nachos, please. I'm only going to have a few. They looked good. I don't need the extra calories, right? I'm a big guy anyway. So, but everyone was bashful. And then one time I walked back and the entire tray of nachos was gone. I was like, oh, somebody ate them. That's fantastic. So thank you, Chris. I'm glad I know that like who did it, but thank you, because I was not taking those home, and I'm happy that they're gone. But overall, I thought the draft itself, the location was great. The food was great. I have a preference only in-person drafts. I will not do an online draft. I just feel like it leaves too much. I feel like, like your actual values change based on what you're seeing on that screen. And I tried to keep my eyes off Sleeper. I know we had Sleeper going in the background as well. But I just feel like your values, it's a different ball game when you're in person versus when you're drafting online. I think it's so much more challenging drafting in person. It's like you get thrown with a snipe shot. You don't have that recommended player right in front of you. You kind of got to regather if someone takes the guy that you've been targeting, right? So I'm a big proponent of in-person drafts. I feel like it adds more accountability to the league in general too, right? everyone shows up. You know, everyone's going to set their lineup and stuff like that.
Yeah. JT, what was your favorite part of the draft?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just had to get used to these, online drafts the last couple of years because I never had a draft that wasn't in person for, a decade. I always had it online. And the online, it's like it's okay, but live is so much better. Like Lucas said, you got to think on your feet. You got to make adjustments. You don't have time to have an 8-hour clock to ask 50 people in the Discord what you should do with this pick. You got to just make a move. And I like that you got to kind of adjust on the fly. It's always different too when you get drinking a little bit. Maybe you get a little more aggressive than you normally would. I just like those variables. I think it's like the real life NFL draft. Then you got to make a pick. Then somebody snipes your guy, you got to go, and you can't just all of a sudden be like, "Oh, pause. That was who I wanted." Like we got to think this all through again. So I love in-person drafts. I think it's the way to go. I was actually shocked a couple guys had never done one. I'm like, oh, you guys are missing out on half the fun of fantasy football is getting together with your buddy and hanging out.
Yeah. Adam, how about you? What was your best part of the whole day?
Yeah, man, I think similar to what everyone said, the camaraderie, doing that with the guys. I do like in-person drafts. I know that they take a little bit longer sometimes, but I like similar to what JT was talking about. You got to make a quick pick. And then what's nice is we actually had some trades go down like during the draft. And I like that aspect of like, if we're going to trade, let's trade and pull the trigger. Not let me think about it. Let me talk to a couple of my buddies. Let me put it in my trade calculator, weigh it out. Let me counter you 7 times. You counter me back 6 times. It's just like, if you want a guy here, you got to trade. Let's do it now. Let's make trades happen because trades are what make fantasy football fun.
Damn straight. So real fast, 15 seconds. Adam, what do you think about your team? You like it or are you okay with it? Or
if I have a chance to elaborate on it, I think I potentially will. It'll just depend. I definitely had a strategy, but I'm interested to see what it looks like at the end of the season.
Yeah. Feel fast. Lucas, 10 seconds. How do you like your team?
I like it. I got a lot of guys I like. I also feel like I need to make a few adjustments, but have the value in order to make the trades that I need, right? Like the guys to make it happen.
JT, you're on a little bit of a delay, but you're not that bad behind. But how do you like your team?
I got JT and Najee on my team, and that's all that matters. I got both of them. I told my girlfriend I won the draft, at least in my mind, because I got those 2 players.
There you go. That's what it's all about. So the scoring settings for this league, let's dive into some settings here. We're going to go over them real fast. 12-team, 25-man rosters, year 1. Year 2, we import for the rookie draft, so it becomes 30-man rosters. No kicker, no defense, no IDP, no Debbie. It's a half point for receiver, full point reception for running backs, and tight ends have a full 1 point than wide receivers. And a half point more than running backs. Quarterbacks have 5-point passing touchdowns, which I think some people do 4, some people do 6. I think 5 is a good medium. -1 per sack, which I feel is kind of a bit modest. It should be -2 because quarterbacks usually create that problem. It's not always an offensive line issue. As an offensive lineman, I can attest to that it's mostly the quarterback's problem. Even if it's not, I'm going to blame the quarterback anyway. And it's 0.1 per passing attempt and 0.1 per completion. Definitely not a Justin Fields stat booster, but bonuses for 300 to 399 yards, 3 points. 400 plus passing yards, 6 points. There's not a 500-yard passing bonus, or it would be in there. 25 plus completions is an extra 2 points. Running backs, 1 point per first down, 0.1 per rushing attempt. 50 plus yard bonus, 2 points. 100 plus yard rushing bonus, 4 points. 200 plus yard rushing bonus, 8 points. 20 plus carries, an extra couple points. Wide receiver, 0.5 for receiving first down. 50 plus long touchdown is 2 points. 100 plus receiving yard is 4 points. 200 plus receiving yard is 8 points. 200 combined yard rushing and receiving is an extra 3 points if you got a good guy that can do both, the Debo kind of guy. Special teams, 0.05 points per return yard, 0.05 for kick return yards. It's with the Pat Fitzmaurice kind of nailed it with all the special teams kind of getting eviscerated, other rules. It might not be that much of a difference. So back in the day, it used to be a humongous deal when you had like Antonio Brown or guys who return kicks, punts, Devin Hester's kind of stuff like that. It was a great, like a third flex player if you had one or something like that. 6 points for individual special teams touchdowns for returners and kick returners. Doesn't happen that much anymore, but whatever. Anything am I missing here, guys? Anything that you'd like to see in our leagues you don't have here?
No, I mean, I think you adjust to the league settings, right? So we all voted on it. You propose some things, and it's up to us to kind of figure out and navigate those waters on how we want to set up a team. I think it gives us a lot of a variability because it's a super flex league. So usually those quarterbacks go early, but there's enough bonuses in some of the other positions that if you wanted to fade quarterback a little bit or go aggressively, you can still be competitive in the league if you don't get one of those big quarterbacks.
Yeah, JT, what about the scoring settings?
Yeah, I liked it. I like the tiered system. I'm not in a lot of leagues that have the tier, the half for wideout, one for running back, 1.5 for tight end. It's usually kind of one or the other. So I actually like that. I thought it kind of adjusted the kind of your strategy a little bit. You had to think about wide receivers a little bit more because they weren't quite as heavy as usually we get them. So I actually like the system. I'm all, you know me, we talk about it all the time. I'm a bonus guy. So anytime you get bonus for big plays or hitting 100, 200, 300 yards, I'm all for it.
Lucas, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the first time I'm in a league with this much variability, right? There's a lot of moving parts, but I do think it makes it more challenging, which I like. The special teams thing is something I really like a lot, and it does suck that they just changed that kick return rule. I don't know, just kind of spitballing here. I don't know if it would be like, because it's discouraging actually taking the ball or returning it, maybe like a point per kick return or something to kind of even that out, because there's not going to be nearly as many returns instead of the 0.05 yards per kick returns. But I like it in general, right? Punt returns still going to have a ton of value. I don't think much changes with that. So really, really cool, right? A really cool element, especially knowing how important tight ends are and why John drafted back-to-back tight ends. So I could not get one. So that's,
Andrews and Hockenson is a pretty good combination for a tight end premium league. So I'm kind of happy. It's about the only part of my roster I'm happy with besides Trevor Lawrence and Antonio Gibson. But, we'll talk about that later. Those guys were not going to be on my roster. So Chris Joel Smith said, you guys share the draft board. I can't do the physical draft board because I did it like an idiot this year. Usually you put all the stickers under the same, the team's name, but we just went in order so we can kind of keep it fluent on the draft board itself, just to kind of see where people went anyway. But the sleeper, I'll share that later when we share the if I could share the entire this screen, but we'll go from there. We'll hit that up later if we have enough time. So that's pretty much no taxi squad. We talked about that earlier. We're just going to expand the roster instead of having a taxi squad plus 30 players. So let's run through some NFL news and rumors here from around the league stuff. Lucas will go first, then JT and Adam will just keep going back and forth and correct me if I call the wrong guy out, or you guys can kind of take turns. We'll lightning round through this. Lucas, we'll start with you. Bears, will DJ Moore be a wide receiver one this year?
100%. Yes. I think we've seen a heavy trend with players that are in situations that aren't great, specifically wide receivers that move teams, get a bit better. I guess the Justin Fields thing's left up for debate, but moving to a better team, usually they're prioritized. They get a lot more target share, things like that, right? You move down from the first pick. There's some implications there. So, for the general manager, Ryan Poles, he's going to make sure that DJ Moore gets worked in. So I think he will be a wide receiver one.
All right. These are quick answers. All right. We got to get too quick. Okay. All right. JT, Charlie Jones is a future star for the Bengals.
I actually like Charlie Jones. I like the landing spot. I think he could be really good. I like him more for next year than the season's coming for, but I do like Charlie Jones.
That's why he's on my roster. Yes, I know. I love that guy. Adam, Bills. What happens to the Bills offense if Diggs requests a trade or doesn't show up for camp?
They stink.
That's about as quick as you get. That's the best answer in the world right there. They absolutely stink. Josh Allen's tanked. Broncos. Back to Lucas. Russell Wilson will finish as a QB blank this year. You tell me.
18.
Okay, there you go. JT, Browns. Elijah Moore finishes this year with more fantasy points than Amari Cooper. True or false?
I think that's false. I think Cooper's still number one there.
Well, we'll find out. These are mostly my guys I'm asking these trick questions for, so I'm hoping for some good answers here. But Buccaneers, this is Adam. Buccaneers, Baker, the touchdown maker, will revive his career this year.
I mean, he hasn't had like the most stellar career ever, so I think the bar is pretty low. So I'll say yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Lucas, the Cardinals, Keontae Ingram will go nuts if Connor gets hurt.
No. That offense is going to be putrid all year. No matter who's playing.
JT, Chargers, Austin Eckler owners are in for a big regression this year.
I don't know if it's a big regression, but I don't think he's near RB1 this year. I still think he's top RB, but I think he's maybe in the 8 to 10 range as opposed to 1 to 3.
Adam, Rashee Rice is the Chiefs' best weapon besides Kelsey.
I will go with yes.
All right. Good answer. So back to Lucas. Colts, is Anthony Richardson ready to face NFL defenses yet?
No.
No, I don't think so either. JT, Cowboys, how good will Brandon Cooks be in this offense?
I actually like Brandon Cooks for the Cowboys, and he's done it everywhere else. He's always produced. I think he's going to be great with Dak. I think Dak lucked out getting Brandon Cooks this year.
Absolutely. Adam, Dolphins, if Waddle or Cheetah get hurt, what would this do to this team? What would this team do without those two studs?
Waddle and who?
If Waddle or Tyreek Hill get hurt this year, what would this team do without both their superstars? Just kind of taking these slants, these 4-yard slants to the house every other play.
Devon Achane would be an RB1 because you'd have 95 catches.
At least 95 catches, if that was the case. Oh, all right. Lucas, Eagles, will Kenny Gainwell have a bigger role than people expect?
I know you want me to say yes, but they have way too much talent to facilitate touches for Kenneth Gainwell.
JT, Falcons, what if Kyle Pitts never is the same post-injury?
I love the Gainwell question. Always cracks me up. Pitts, I think he's still got something left in him. I don't know if he's ever going to hit what everybody thinks he's going to be in the NFL. I'm slightly worried.
Adam, 49ers, no way they bench Trey Lance.
No way.
There's too much draft capital, right?
Yeah, not the whole season.
Yeah, no way. Lucas, Giants, what if Saquon holds out?
It's going to be a lot tougher year for Daniel Jones. He'll have to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, that's a good problem for me to have. Absolutely. JT, Jaguars, Christian Kirk is the player to own on this offense.
For me, absolutely. I'm getting him everywhere I can. I'm letting everybody overdraft Calvin Ridley, and I'm all over Christian Kirk yet again. I loved him last season. Love him this season.
I was so pissed when I didn't get Christian Kirk. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I was at too. Adam, Jets, is Aaron Rodgers going to hit the ground running in this offense, or will there going to be some growing pains?
Well, he's on my team, so he's absolutely going to hit the ground running. Probably going to be a top 3 quarterback. This is the easiest question you've asked the whole time.
At least. Lucas, the Lions, will Jameson Williams severely impact Amon-Ra St. Brown's fantasy value when he gets back instated?
No, I'm not a big Amon-Ra guy, but Jared Goff is the king of throwing, to your tight ends and your slot receivers.
JT, Packers, Jordan Love is going to surprise people.
I think it depends on your expectations. I think he's going to be decent. I think some people think he's going to be terrible. I think he's going to be decent. So for me, I think that's above expectation.
Yeah. All right. Adam, the Panthers, they actually look okay. True or false?
False. That wide receiver room is fool's gold.
It's so many interesting players, but not a star. I don't know. Someone's going to come out of there. I don't know who it's going to be, but someone's going to come out of that wide receiver room as a stud. They kind of have to, I guess, but we're gonna find out who it is later, I guess. But Lucas, Patriots, with James Robinson out of the picture, which I don't think people thought he was going to have a huge role anyway. But who was the handcuff for Ramad right now? Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris? or none of the above. It could be like just going to committee back because they don't have a stud.
I think, I mean, Belichick has always been known to screw with people who have fantasy running backs. So I would probably go with the latter. It'll be like a committee approach.
JT, Raiders, Jimmy G is underrated.
I think Jimmy G is slightly underrated, but I also think he's going to have a Jimmy G season and get crushed behind that offensive line and get hurt, and he's going to miss most of the season, and the Raiders are going to have a top 3 pick.
That sounds pretty much like the likely outcome, yes. Adam, Rams, Stafford is he really going to play this year?
Pierre Strong is the backup. Oh, wait, that's not my question. Sorry. Yeah, I think Matt Stafford's going to play. I think Matt Stafford's going to play this year.
Okay. As the injury guy, this is kind of, I'm glad it ended up in your spot. As much as a beating this guy's taken his entire career, is it worth it for him to come back to this team that's kind of on a rebuild and, just falling apart? Is it worth it for him to come back and just risk the rest of his life? I mean, the rest of these injuries and all the shit he's had, is it worth it for him? Or is it just, I mean, you love football a lot, but I mean, come on, man. Like, when do you just say, I'm not going anywhere? Unless he gets traded to some team that really needs a quarterback in a win now situation. I don't know why he's doing it, but Jay, go ahead.
I was going to say money talks.
Money talks and bullshit walks. That's kind of how it works. Yeah. JT, or this is Lucas. Ravens, Mark Andrews is locked in tight end 1 now.
No, it's still Travis Kelce. I don't know why you took him over Travis Kelce, to be honest. Maybe for longevity, but no, it's Travis Kelce until he retires.
Yeah, I got to figure to have a couple more years out of Mark Andrews, so we'll see what happens. JT, Saints, Chris Olave is going to set fantasy world on fire this year.
I think Olave is going to have a big year. Biggest issue is going to be, can they find anyone else to take off some of the pressure, or is he going to get double teamed to get the number 1 cover corner every week? But I still think he has a good year, even if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, super talented dude. Adam, Seahawks, Zach Charbonnet is very underrated.
I think he is appropriately rated.
It's funny because I saw the Podfather, Matt Kelly, saying something about he's MF and Charbonnet. And when Pat Fitzmaurice took him the other day, the other pick, I was like, I wanted to take him and I passed on him for somebody else. And I forgot who it was, but Charbonnet was definitely on my radar. And he went right before my next pick would have been taken. But, and if I would have traded with, I forgot his name. If I would have traded with whoever I was going to trade with that pick, and I turned the trade down because it was too big of a void in the middle of the draft, I would have had Charbonnet, but I blew it. It might be a blessing in disguise. Some of the best trades are the ones that are never made. So we'll see. Lucas, Steelers, Jalen Warner is better than Najee Harris.
I think he's more explosive. I think it's similar to a Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott situation, where it does feel like Najee is holding Jalen Warren back a little bit more. I'm not a huge Najee guy. I'm sorry, JT.
Yeah, I think
I think he's definitively better, but I like him better as a player, right? Najee's situation is going to make him a better fantasy player, but.
All right. JT, Texans, Dalton Schultz is a team secret weapon.
I actually like Schultz on this team. I think he could end up leading this team in receptions this year. He's clearly the best guy they got, unless some of these young guys finally step up.
Adam, Titans, Will Levis is severely underrated.
False.
He is. Everybody hates this guy. I took him as a flyer, but I'm not really. I was expecting a lot of people to stroke my ego and pretend like I did something good on my team for one of my picks, but I think I'm gonna bite the dog.
What a great pick that was, though. I mean, the value on that was chef's kiss. Very good.
Well, I'll take it. Lucas, Vikings. Cutting Cook was a great idea for the Vikings. True or false?
I think it was. It's tough to give that definitive. I'll go true for the cap savings. I think Alexander Madison's ready to go, and I think that they're going to be a throw first team anyways, right? They leaned on Dalvin Cook before the insertion of JJ and now Jordan Addison, who I think is a perfect complement to JJ. So I don't think they needed that salary cap number on their team.
Yeah, and I think there's some injury concerns with Cook. Also, he had offseason surgery, things like that. Like Adam,
He's there every year, it seems like, right?
Adam, you know anything about the Cook situation? Why they might have said no, it's not worth it? Like, he's going to recover. The surgery he had on his shoulder in the offseason, is that something that like is a bad injury for people, for running backs?
I mean, this has been a recurring thing for Cook, his shoulder, the amount of dislocations and subluxations that he's had going all the way back to his time at Florida State. So it shouldn't be anything that's surprising. I always say, like, if you draft Delvin Cook, I would pencil him in to miss about 2 games because that's the injury risk that he runs with the shoulder. I don't think the medicals are the reason why they moved on to Dalvin Cook. I think to Lucas's point, it's a pass first team. And running back doesn't really move the needle for most of these teams in their offenses. So I think they looked at their kind of committee of guys and said, we can figure it out with Justin Jefferson and some of these other guys.
Yeah. JT, Washington football team. Is Brian Robinson, everybody kind of laughs about him being so slow and, it's not Antonio Gibson's so much better, as a running back, but is Brian Robinson really going to get like 220 carries like people are talking about? Is he underrated or is he just, it's going to be the Antonio Gibson show this year?
I'm not a Brian Robinson guy. I'm shocked that he got as much run as he did last year. It's your boy, Antonio Gibson. He's the man this year. Get him going. Rev him up.
Say it for the people in the back. That's right. It's Antonio Gibson this year. I'll take it. So we had a whole bunch of trades during the draft. Before the draft for this league, it was great to see so much kind of going back and forth, team offers. I think I got a couple trades done, but I got about 97,000 of them declined. So because that's what I do is send bad trades out. That's what get used to that, guys. It's just get used to the decline button. It'll be a regular habit in your repertoire towards me. So whatever, it is what it is. So every week we do an evaluation of a team sent in by a listener, but I'll be a listener this week. So we'll determine if it's like if I'm in like a kind of win now mode, or man, I should just throw in the towel right now, get rid of some of my whatever studs I might have on my team. I'm not sure I have too many, but what I would trade for them. What's my team's biggest needs? Who would you trade away if you were going to trade anybody because of value wise? Who would you trade for to try and get on this team? Running back, wide receiver, tight end, kind of stuff like that. Like I said, it's a brand new team, so it's a little bit easier to like. There's no history. I wasn't in last place last year, so it's just a fresh start. It's me going across the board here. So I got Trevor Lawrence, Antonio Gibson, Rashad White as my running backs. It's receiving for running backs is pretty important. It's a full point as opposed to a half point for wide receivers. So I figured Rashad White and Antonio Gibson might be the best bets for receptions where they got them in value. DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Treylon Burks is my wide receivers. Then I got Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson as my first flex, Rondell Moore is my second flex, and Daniel Jones is my second quarterback. And then on my bench, I got Winston, Baker, the touchdown maker, Will Levis to sit there and maybe brew up for a little bit. And then I got the pride of Brother Rice High School, where I went, where my son played with his high school teammate, Xavier Valade. And then Kareem Hunt, who has not signed yet with somebody, but I'm anticipating him going to land somewhere. Kenny Gainwell, he was on every one of my teams and always will be. Kevin Harris, Keontae Ingram, Deuce Vaughn. I figured he'd be nothing but a reception guy. He's too small to run up the middle. He's a good running back, but, it is what it is. Jaden Reed, which I like that pick a lot. Charlie Jones, Rashee Rice, Wan'Dale Robinson, who a lot of people tried trading me when I picked that pick. I wasn't expecting so much interest. I do like him, but he may be coming off an injury. Gerald Everett. I like Gerald Everett this year. I think he may, even though he's been like the fifth option on this team for the tight end has been like the fifth option on this team. I think maybe he makes a little resurgence if a couple guys get hurt, they cut somebody or whatever. And then Albert O, he's a guy I like having on the roster on the bench just because I think he's a athlete who could turn into a pretty good receiving option if they trade him away or something else happens. So, my team's okay. It all depends on how these rookies kind of pan out, and I'm a little short on running backs, I feel here. I don't have a stud running back, but I'm not looking for a guy to have 20,000 calories, got to get 23 carries for, 84 yards and maybe a touchdown every other week. I want receiving back. So let's, Adam, we'll start with you. Like, how does this team look to you? Is this something that did I do okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives you a lot of options. You can figure out if you want to be win now this year. It's young enough that you could kind of put, and you got some more established players that you could kind of push the chips in, but you also have got a young team that the wheels completely fall off. You can move some pieces and you still got like a nice core that you can hold on to. Not to just fluff your feathers. I'm not just saying this because you invited me into the league. And I thought you and Pat Fitzmaurice for waiting on running backs actually came out pretty decently. I like Antonio Gibson and Rashad White. I did some sort of projections, like looking at based on our league scoring settings using 4for4 league settings, league sync, because I'm a company man. Of course, I got to pump 4for4. Rashad White, top 20 running back in this format because like you were talking about with the receiving upside. Antonio Gibson's a little bit lower, but I just think that's because people have soured on Antonio Gibson from last year. I'm much higher on Antonio Gibson. I was going to take him in that round. When I did a mock draft on Sleeper, he was going in like the 11th, 12th round, and I was prepared to take him in the 10th round, and you took him right before me in the 9th round before that wraparound. So I thought that was a really smart pick as well. So I think you have some options. You're definitely loaded at quarterback and tight end. The running abilities that some of these quarterbacks get in our league settings for rushing first downs and rushing attempts and things like that. Daniel Jones, sneaky runner. Trevor Lawrence too, even though that's not definitely the forte of his game. He's definitely athletic enough. So I think it's an interesting build, and it definitely gives you some opportunities to pivot one way or the other.
Luke, you're gonna get a lot of trades from me this year. Who would you want me to trade you? I got DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Treylon Burks is my starting receivers. Rondell Moore's my next guy up, and my bench is sus. You know, I'm gonna have to be patient with some of these guys. Who do you think was a smart draft on this team, or who was like somebody besides Xavier Valade and guys who may not have a role right now? Who else on this team is kind of like just get rid of this guy right now?
So I mean, I like your quarterback selection, your first one especially, right? I think you chose Trevor over some of the guys that are getting higher ADP. I think Trevor Lawrence has the makeup to be really that guy, right? Like in the Mahomes light, in my opinion. I kind of have it ranked where it's him, Burrow. That's just my preference. I don't like a quarterback that's subjected to a lot more hits and on 8 to 12 design runs. I like a guy that throws the ball a lot, right? So that's just my preference, especially for Dynasty. But I think Antonio Gibson this is your year that you finally cash in. He's a better fit for this offense than Brian Robinson with some of the changes that they made. So I do like the value you got on him there. DJ Moore, I was really upset you took him where you took him because I was going to go back to back with DJ Moore and Deebo Samuel. I had about 30 mock drafts like that. The consolation prize was Cooper Kupp, so I'll take it. But I like DJ Moore. You could definitely send me a lot of offers for him. Treylon Burks, I think, has a lot of upside that people are not tapping into. It's tough with his situation in Tennessee, but overall, I like that pick a lot, right? I think instantly where you kind of lose it is that second flex and honestly your running back core. So if I was you, I would be trying to shop one of your two tight ends because Everett and Albert O, I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name. I think they're both capable of, especially Everett and right now and Albert O in the future. I think they're both capable of taking on like a flex spot and being a consistent starter or at least a spot start where, you're going to be able to get. It's like if you move Antonio Gibson down to your running back 2 and Rashad White or however you want it to appear, right? Move Antonio Gibson down to your flex. You don't have that second tight end premium, but like, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of the move I would be making if I was you.
Yeah. JT.
Yeah. I like, the Gibson pick, like he said, I think he fits the offensive a lot better. With this, I think you could get some of that McKinnon action like at the Chiefs. So I love that pick there. I just think he's going to have more value, I think, as a 9th round pick. I love the Deontay Johnson pick in the 7th. I would have absolutely taken him if I didn't already have Pickens and Muth and Najee on my team. As a Steelers diehard, I was like, even 4 starters are too many for me in my starting lineup. So I love that pick for you there. Obviously, he has high upside, wide receiver 1 as a 7th round pick. tight ends are great. I love the tight ends. You look great there. Yeah, you just need some young guys to hit. You need a little bit of play out of Baker, Robinson, Rondale Moore. If some of those guys step up, I think you could be all right. So, but I think there's a lot of us in that. I feel like my team's the same boat where I need some of these young guys to kind of hit. And if I don't, then I could be in trouble in some spots.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reaches in this draft. It seemed like a lot of guys got their favorite guys or go-to guys, or every one of us is in 5, 6, 7, 15 dynasty leagues, stuff like that. We all have our favorite guys that are on this team and favorite guys on that team. You kind of make a mishmash in every new league of guys you have somewhere else. So, we'll see how it plays out. But, trading is what it's for. Their waiver wire starts next week. So there's not many guys on the waiver wire, but there's a couple. I've already kind of scanned that out. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm happy to have you guys here. So, Adam, why don't you let everybody know one more time where they can find you at, all that kind of stuff. I know you got to dip out right now. You're a busy man with a lot of other stuff going on. So tell me about it. Let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, what you do.
For sure. Thanks again for having me. It was nice chatting it up with you guys. I look forward to playing with all you in the league this year and hopefully winning. You can find me on Twitter at @therealadam_H. I'm going to be really ramping up my content. I'll be posting on Twitter, but definitely over at 4for4.com. Fantasy football articles, specifically injury focused. Talk about your favorite fantasy football player if they potentially get injured, and give you some ideas of how to pivot and what you can expect.
Thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it. Lucas, how about you, man? Tell me about yourself, all that stuff like that. Let everybody know all the good stuff they can find, what you do.
Yeah, so if you are a Bears fan listening, I do a Bears podcast called Barely There Pod. You can follow us at Barely There Pod. You can follow me at Lucas Perfetti 46. Had an awesome time on the show today. Big fan of how giddy you are over Kenneth Gainwell and Antonio Gibson. Some of those some of those were perfect, right? JT knows. So yeah, no, I had a great time at the draft. I thought it was awesome location, right? We had a ton of room. I will say I don't know if the sticker efficiency was the reason for the 6-hour draft. I think there might have. I know at the bookend of the wraparound, I was always pretty instant, but there were some people that maybe took a little bit longer for their selections. I think that might have had a little bit more to do with the 6-hour draft than the stickers, but I don't know. Maybe we can reinvent the term sticker bitch and make it like draft facilitator. Maybe it'll make it more appealing for people to be up there as the facilitator instead of the bitch. But some people are just set in their ways.
Mike Tagliere had no problem being my sticker bitch a couple years ago. Rob Wozniak had no problem being my sticker bitch. I've had some pretty good sticker bitches. So
all right, hey.
I'm maybe I need to change the name to something else. It's a little more sexy or whatever.
A little more inclusive, right? Yeah, a little.
Yeah, exactly. But for the most part, I just bust Anthony's balls. I love Anthony's script. I like busting his balls a little bit, so that's why I kind of call him out and say things like that. So I just want to make him feel bad, but he doesn't give a shit. So he doesn't. I can't even make him feel bad. He's one of those guys who lets everything go off his shoulders. You don't even care. So
admirable trait.
Yes, JT. Tell me all the stuff you got going on. You're a busy motherfucker, dude.
Yeah, you can find me JT Orange on Twitter. All kinds of stuff on there. Jump on there. I do my JT parlay play of the day, all kinds of fantasy content, trades, odds and ends. Excuse me. I also have a bunch of series coming out about IDP if you're an IDP guy on the DLF. So you check out on the website there. I'm writing a bunch of stuff about all the different divisions and IDP outlook for fantasy there. Also, always on as much as I possibly can be on the Commissioner Evaluation podcast here with John McGlynn on P2W. Then also I have the Stew with JT Brew over at Dynasty Pros Football. So you can check me out on there, a show I host. Right now we're in the middle of a series where I'm talking basically through every team in the NFL. We're going through draft, schedule, risers and fallers, and kind of just talking to different people in the industry who cover different teams or guys that I'm just friends with that love those teams. So it's a pretty fun series so far. Excuse me. I got a couple teams already in the we've already posted, so go back and check that out on the Fantasy Pros Football YouTube channel. But that's most of my stuff. always a suggestion. I always get a girl. I own a couple bars and restaurants. I always get a girl that works for me. Throw her some money. She runs the draft board for us. She harasses everybody in the draft and makes them make picks soon, or she charges them shots. So always a good thing to kind of keep everybody moving is get a girl up there who kind of harasses people into making the picks or makes them feel bad. So that's something we need to think about next year, John. When you get somebody to do something like that, we'd be
the right kind of peer pressure.
There you go.
That's right.
JT, it seems like the more people we have on the show, the faster these things go, which is like the most opposite thing in the history of we have 45-minute show tonight with 4 people. I don't know. It's just me and JT. It goes for 3.5 hours, but we have more people on here and it's shorter. I have no idea how that happens, but I'll take it. So I'm John McGlynn.
It always helps when I'm on delay because then I can't speak up as much. So that's good.
Yeah. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on the Twitter machine at John. Helping out with all the the comments. Brandon Anderson said fun show. Chris Joel Smith's on here all the time. It's just fun people tuning in. You can find it on podcasts on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Thanks everybody for being part of the show. I love it. That's what I come here to do. Hang out with some good people, especially new league mates, new friends, and we will make this thing. We'll keep it up. You guys will be on more and more, evaluating more teams. We'll later in the year after the season's over, with next off season, we'll find out how we did. Okay. So, Glenn is in. Let the fun begin. Thanks for being part of the show, everyone, and we will see you next week with a new show. Have a good day, everyone.